Capricorn 6, a dark archway with 10 logs at the bottom. Well, the dark archway represents dark, other unilluminated, an archway, a progression, a passage from what was to what is coming. So we're looking at the fact that the future is unknowable. And yet the 10 logs are for building things, 10's quite a lot. It's the number of completion, 10 as well. The underlying understanding is that we cannot know the future. We are occasionally going through a passage, which is not just an ordinary change, the changes that occur moment by moment in life. Sometimes are punctuated by a passage from what was to what will be. So we're looking at what do we do about the question of finishing what we've started in order that we can passage to a new beginning. In other words, completion. It's very much more popular to begin things than it is to end things. Everyone wants to be a writer of books, and of the 1,000 people that start to write a book, maybe 10 will finish, maybe 20, but it's not many. It's very hard to complete what you set out to do. And therefore, those of us who actually want to take on the examination of how to live, we need to be the ones that work out the mystery of completion. How do we then? How do we do that? What enables us to finish what we start? Now, the first obvious thing is to not start anything unless you intend to finish it. So, for example, if you make an arrangement with somebody, yes, I'll do this with you, lovely, and you don't do it. What's happening here is that your voice is becoming impotent because you're saying, I will, and it's registering in your mind as, yeah, but I don't really mean it, because you don't complete anything. And so every time you hear yourself say something, it's not, therefore I will do that and finish it, being programmed into your mind. It's, I've said this and it doesn't matter because I never complete anything. What we're understanding then is that if you want to program your words so that when they're spoken, they mean something. If you want to program your mind so that when your words speak, your mind actually listens and takes it seriously, you're building up that interface between your word and your mind. With completion, you know that when you say something, you mean it. And people hear that tone of voice. Oh, okay. I'll take him seriously. I'll take her at her word, because there's this tone in the voice that can only be delivered by somebody who understands the mystery of completion. When we say we will do something and we finish it, there's that feeling of, yeah, I've done that. It's not only the celebration, yeah, that was great, lovely time, glad it's all over. No, there's that other sense of, I've done that, I can, and I'll do something else next, and I'll do that as well. And that only comes when you finish what you start. Part of what we've started, of course, is the building process of personality. We had to create a personality. When we were very young, there was this bubbling up of energy, and some of it was love, some of it was dislike, some of it was hated, and we shaped ourselves in response to the feedback that we were receiving about how our impulses were being met by our environment. Parents said, no, you can't make that much noise, I've had enough of you. You know, the parents, however loving and patient they are, at some point they're going to have to say to the child, shut up. Now what does the child do with that? And, well, why don't you try this adventure? What does the child do with that? So this shaping process of personality begins at that very early age. Does it have an end? And this word end is very interesting because it's used to say that now we have another beginning, that kind of end. But it's also used to indicate purpose, isn't it? What is what are your ends here, you know? What's the goal that you have? And what is the goal of your personality? Does the soul have any say in this? Can you perfect personality? Can you reach completion? Well, yes and no. The infinite quality of opportunity and potential would suggest that we can't ever finish this job of shaping the personality. But in certain ways, we can come to policy decisions. We can go through trial and error processes until we've worked out the mystery of how things work, and then come to a policy decision. And that's then the fabric of our personality. So we come to certain completions on certain aspects of personality. And this does relate to the completion of projects. They're not independent phenomena, these. Some people can begin and hold and complete projects. Some people cannot. And if you cannot, then really you need to learn how, because completion is a requirement of new beginnings. If you try to move on because you can't finish a job, you won't. You can't move away from something which is your karmic responsibility. As soon as you've opened up a line of inquiry, a manner of behavior, a series of involvements, when you've opened that Pandora's box, it's your responsibility to close it, however you can. And if you've bitten off more than you can chew, you're going to have a difficult time. So some of the wisdom that goes along with completion is not starting something which you cannot or do not want to complete. So in this image of the dark archway, we're not obliged to walk through it. We can see that if we do, there will be darkness, that we will lose awareness of what's what. So we have to trust our intuition, have the faith that it will all work out. And we find the 10 logs are there, the 10 logs we need for building something. That represents resources. We will find the resources if we have the faith and the thoroughness and persistence and plodding determination. It will certainly come. Capricorn mystery, we've got these Capricorn qualities to align with. If we want to attend to this whole question of completion, that's the energy. It's a plodding, putting up with hardness sometimes in order to deal with the grubby bits at the end of a project. You start a project off and it's all inspiration and enthusiasm. That's easy. And you keep it going and you learn things, and that's interesting. And you overcome some of the easier challenges, and that gives you a feeling of well-being. And then the completion job is the tricky one, because that's when all the difficult things come up, all the things that have been left until the end because nobody wanted to deal with them. That's the completion. It's the tricky bit of the process. It's tying off all of the loose ends and making sure that everything is dealt with so that you can move on. So then we see the relationship between competency in completion and the ability to start something new. Because if you have not finished what was old, you'll simply recycle it. All the problems, all the difficulties, it just get more and more difficult until finally you stomp up the will to deal with what you started. So, there's the mystery. Whatever you start, you gotta finish. And you will. There's not really a choice about this. It's just that you might not know that it's just a cycle of repetition until you complete what you started enough to springboard to the next level.